Hello again and welcome to another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast, where we talk about everything and everything franchising. I think I've said that a lot of times. We've got Marcel Lal here, who is the global COO of InXpress. Marcel, how are you going?
Very good, Glenn. Nice to see you again.
And you too, mate. Thank you for joining us. We're at the FCA National Franchise Convention and a lot is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great convention. Big turnout. A lot of different brands here, a lot of Australian brands here, so very exciting.
Yeah, it's huge. It's been a really good weekend. So we're going to talk about, because your role is a global role and you spend a lot of time, half the time I'm connecting with you when we're doing committee meetings or whatever and you're in India or you're wherever, we're going to talk about global insights for Australian brands, not necessarily just to go overseas, but stuff that you see happening overseas to help brands here as well.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing? What insights do you have globally to start off with on franchising and comments on it?
Yeah, there's quite a few different things, and I think that there's always, everybody's always looking at how to do things faster and more efficiently. And I think that that's one of the things.
Cheaper?
Yeah, faster and cheaper as well. And there's a lot of different things. And obviously AI has been a hot topic, particularly at this convention. But it's also something that people can bring in and franchisors can bring into their support structures. Franchisees can as well, but franchisors can bring that into their support structure by making sure that the information that they've got and what they're using AI for can be efficient so that they can support their franchisees better. And I think that
So you're talking like through back-end intranets or something like that, or engaging it in there? What sort of?
It's more for even with your operational teams. And so the support that you're providing to franchisees, whether it's through the call center and that sort of support to franchisees and even down to to the end user customers as well. But it can also be the teams, the field sales teams, etc., to make sure that the data and what their response is back to franchisees is fast, efficient, and helps them to be more efficient as well. But it's not just AI. I think it really is wider around process improvement. And I suppose one of the big themes overseas, and particularly from the States, is around business modernisation, and which is really looking at modernising every aspect of your business, your processes, your systems, looking at everything quite holistically and modernising it, if you just think about it.
Yeah. Do you think this has been triggered by AI? Because really, by definition, we should always be modernising our businesses, shouldn't we? There's not like a line when we've done, but AI has, it's accelerated everything so quickly, hasn't it?
I think it creates that urgency, and if you're not utilising it and not utilising it in the right manner, then there is a fear of being left behind, and that's the reality. But somebody else is adopting it and your competitors are adopting it, so therefore you can get left behind. And the key is for all of us as franchisors is our primary role is to support and enable franchisees so that they can grow and they can be more profitable. But if the support we're providing to them is not effective or not efficient, then we're not doing the right thing by franchisees.
Yeah, you're not doing what you promised.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it goes wider, because we often look at AI just from the marketing and just from the proactive stuff. And here at this convention, we know we've obviously spoken in the marketing stream about the use of AI from a marketing perspective, but I'm talking more also from a support perspective and embedding it into your support structures, your ticket system that franchisees may or may not use as well, knowledge base.
Yeah.
And the key is to make sure you've got your information as clean as possible, so that when AI is obviously doing its thing and obviously accessing that information, it's clean information, it's up-to-date information, whether it's documents, whether it's videos, whatever it might be that you've got in that knowledge base.
So what are you seeing overseas in your travels and discussions? You'd be exposed to many other franchise brands and operations. What are you seeing with them from a support office perspective and this acceleration of change with these applications and tools? What are you seeing as far as how they're adapting their support structures or their approach to support for franchise brands? Is it very different here to in other countries?
I think Australia actually does a really good job. I think that's the sheer scale in the US means that there's larger support teams that are supporting those franchisees and obviously those end user customers.
Market,
yeah, exactly. But I think the concept is still the same. You're still looking at, really, for me, it's all about your people, your processes, and your platforms, which is your systems. And if you're looking at it from that perspective, you can't ignore any one of those particular areas, whether you're large, small, whatever it might be. And there seems to be quite a focus on that business modernisation that's happening now, where you can't just focus on one area. You've got to make sure, but you're equipping your people essentially to be more effective in the support that they provide to franchisees. Yeah.
What are you seeing as far as expansion goes? What are you seeing overseas? So it's very interesting. I see you at some expos and events in the US or in India or whatever. How is it different? So to franchise brands in those countries who are growing and doing work to grow, what do you see that's different or better or worse or whatever compared to what we're doing here? Are there any insights around that?
Yeah,
I'm talking methodology of recruitment and messaging and
if you like, even from a recruitment perspective, I mean, expos are certainly very much back. You can see that
seems that way.
There seems to be a lot more foot traffic in different expos when we look at not
even
just
globally,
in Australia, in Asia, you see it in the US as well. So the foot traffic is definitely there. So I think that's one of the things. I think also this concept of MUMBOs, MUMBO, which is multi-unit, multi-brand operators.
It's quite a mouthful,
And it's one of those things in Australia that's not as common, but it is very common in the US for a franchisee, not just to be a franchisee of one brand, but to actually have multiple brands. And, there's huge efficiencies or huge benefits there for a franchisee to have that, in terms of, cultivating the customer base. Obviously there's cross-selling opportunities.
There's a lot of cross everything, isn't there?
Yeah, and you can put efficiencies across that. But the pitfall is that there can be a tendency to not put the resources into that one brand.
Yeah, there can be one champion of them, and then there's the other one.
Exactly. And you spread yourself just too thin. But that, I think, from an overall investment point of view, Glenn, I think that you see a lot more investment, and I think there's investment from overseas and within Australia, looking at franchisors and franchisees from not just private equity, but just from private investors in general who are looking to come in and actually actually invest in Australia as well.
It's always been a bit of a I think franchisors in Australia have always turned their nose up a little bit to multi-unit, multi-brand.
Yes.
The multi-brand thing
absolutely
seems to be a bit of a bridge too far for franchisors in Australia, I've always thought.
Yeah, I'm a franchisor as well, and I think that you could look at it from that aspect. I've got a bit of a wider lens, and I think that there are benefits, providing that the franchisee is not just willing to invest in buying that into that other brand, but is also putting the necessary funding in for the running of the business and making sure they've got the people there to be able to do that. So I see huge benefits from that it's really finding people that are investment minded. Yes, you want them to ultimately keep growing within your own brand, but there are benefits as well to them doing that. But yeah, we're I don't like to say behind in Australia with that. I just think that we're still maturing in that regard, but it is a very common thing in the US. Yeah.
What about the age demographic and the profile of people who are looking to invest in franchises? You've been at a lot of those events.
Yeah.
How does that differ with our more mature market here, mature Western market there? How is that differing to the demographic and the age profile of people and the types of people looking to invest in those other markets that you operate in? Is there, because you'd see a lot of those leads come in and you see their profile.
I think it's still broad. I mean, if I look beyond.
So I'm trying to think of who the buyers are, even in different countries. Does it make much? Because I'm thinking if you're trying to go overseas, how much are you adapting your marketing messaging and all that sort of thing to it?
I think so. I'll answer that in a couple of ways. I think that most brands are trying to keep their messaging essentially the same, but you do have to look at the market demographics, look at where your growth is, where you're specifically targeting, what areas within a country. Like if you were to compare Australia with India, with the US, it's different. And obviously they've got huge populations, differences or variations to Australia. But I think that you try to keep, particularly as a brand, you want your messaging to be as clear as possible, to articulate what you're doing in a very clear manner. But at the same time,
no matter what market you're in,
doesn't matter. And you want to keep the messaging essentially the same. There might be some nuances, and that can happen with different states in different countries as well. But you want to essentially keep that the same. In terms of demographics around age, you mentioned, there's no question that there are certainly you can see more, younger investors and people that have funding at a younger age, but I wouldn't necessarily say exclusively it's just that. You see more mature investors, people who have come out of, they might have come out of a redundancy or left their role.
Every
they've got savings, and they've got that opportunity. I think COVID really threw the spanner amongst the works with that. And now, since this post-COVID, there's some level of normalisation, but I think there's a lot more people coming out and you can see it here in Australia.
It does feel like it's started to get back to something like, I don't want to say normal, but something like it felt like it was. And you find that the same in other countries as well? Is it pretty much across the board?
Yeah, definitely. No, I do find that. I found that the same in other countries.
Though.
It has taken a while. But I think that some of the things that can get forgotten, because there's quite a lot of excitement for franchisors around getting out there, promoting, getting franchisees on board. But you can't lose sight of some of, I think, what you've got to do as a franchisor to make sure you've got a good, robust, scalable franchise system around support structures. Human capital management is a massive area. It goes beyond just traditional HR, but it's developing your people, looking after your people. It's focusing on training and development. So you've got a really good, strong support structure within your franchise, because there's no point going out there and just marketing and just bringing on franchisees if you can't support them effectively and you haven't enabled your people to support them effectively as well.
And it's so true. I mean, we do a lot of franchise recruitment centric type content with brands. And sometimes, I mean, it's challenging because I'm also a business owner myself, but it's challenging at times when you're speaking to people who are wanting to do marketing and invest in marketing, but they don't have very good stories to tell about what's happening in their business, that maybe they should start with fixing that. First, definitely. Focus on your ops. Focus on franchisee profitability and performance. Those stories will come out.
I would say you're absolutely right. And I think if you look at compliance, it can sometimes be a scary or dirty word in terms of, we've got obviously Australia, the US, and you look at some other countries, but particularly Australia and the US, very heavily regulated, as we know, in our industry in franchising.
I had Bruce Bilson and then Stephen Giles on back-to-back yesterday.
There you go. So
and truly up to
you were totally
speed.
up to date. But here's the thing I say to any franchise system, and that is that don't be scared of that, but take the opportunity not just to meet those requirements that we've got from a regulatory perspective, but use that to build the frameworks within your business around what you're doing, how you're evaluating franchisees, how you're supporting franchisees, making sure you're consistent, even with areas in terms of not just support, but how you're dealing with underperforming franchisees. Make sure you've got those frameworks in place, right? Whether you're doing it manually or you're using an external system, whatever it might be. Because if you do that, you're building a better franchise system. And I think that that's really, really key. And it will continue to give franchisees confidence in the brand that they're investing in as well. Yeah.
Perfect. So in summarising, wrapping up on the theme of this sort of thing, what, from your experience and your exposure globally, what would be your key takeaway and message to franchise brands here in Australia from what you see overseas to improve their businesses here or stabilise and just make better franchises here in Australia, which is for the betterment of the entire franchise business model here and everyone here at this convention? What would be a message to franchisors as far as focus goes?
Yeah, I would say focus on the fundamentals, number one, and that's around your franchise system. Don't be afraid of things such as AI, but don't just use things like AI just in isolation. If there's a particular function you're not happy with, the support functions, whatever it might be that you're providing, ensure that that's part of a wider strategy. AI is not just something that's isolated on its own. It's part of your wider business strategy. That's the first thing. I would say looking at your personnel and not being afraid to outsource or offshore resources. However, making sure in country you've got your core resources there who can really work on strategy and work on the areas. And if you've got offshore resources that are assisting in certain back office functions or administrative tasks, and you've got AI there and you've got the smarts of that adopted as well, you can free up time for your staff in Australia to focus on proactive items.
Tiffany English talked about your staff need thinking time?
Absolutely.
I love that statement.
Yeah, it is. And it gives them that time, because at the moment you see that, and we see that in our business as well, we're so reactive, but how do we become more proactive to support the franchise network? And it's an ongoing challenge. It's not something that's ever going to go away. But I see those trends, and I think there's more and more tools out there and software and other things that you can actually use and adopt. And again, I'll say it again around human capital management, around focusing on one of your biggest assets, which is your people, and looking after them, training, development, looking after their well-being, and making sure that they're equipped to be successful and happy in their role and feel like that they've got a development path as well. And I think, again, that's a big area that's come out of overseas as well. Yeah.
Excellent.
Very
Marcel,
good.
thanks for the insights, mate.
Good to see you again, mate.
There'll be plenty more. Maybe another 12 months we'll catch you again and see on all your travels. Your frequent flyer miles will be pretty high.
Yeah, I'll look forward to it. Thanks, Glenn.
Excellent, mate. Thank you.
Cheers.
And that's it for another one of the Franchise Everything podcast. Please share, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and we'll catch you in the next one soon.